Well, it's 1 a.m. I just finished watching the Snyder Cut, and I'm actually super excited to get into this one. And there's no cringy, weird intro for me to make fun of, so let's dive in. Welcome to another episode of Not So Super Movie Reviews. Today we're talking about the Snyder Cut, and that is the re-release of Justice League 2017 as Zack Snyder intended it. And you can already tell by the Rotten Tomatoes score that it was a pretty successful endeavor. It has a critic score of 74%, which is about a 30% jump as it stands now, and a user review score of 97%. So according to the users, almost perfect. Now I think that score probably is a little bit higher just because of what this movie represents. And I just want to talk about that real quick. It is definitely a feat of fan power that this got made. And I think that it's really important as somebody who watches these movies and talks about these movies, and as a fan, I think it's super important to support things like this. When fans say, "Oh, Sonic the Hedgehog looks terrible," and so they remake the whole movie, I think it's important for us to recognize when big name studios actually listen to the fans. And even though it took a lot of effort from the fans to make this happen, it happened, and it happened in a big way. So yeah, let's talk about what happened. So first, let's talk about what didn't work, and hopefully that's not too much of a spoiler as to my final review. But one big thing for me that still doesn't work about this movie is sort of the same big issue that I had with Justice League, except for it's not as big of an issue, and that is that I do still believe that this movie, even Zack Snyder's cut, was rushed to production. I still would have rather seen a couple standalone movies. I'd rather have seen a Cyborg movie, a Flash movie, an Aquaman movie before this movie, so that this movie could focus on its own story. Part of what makes the Zack Snyder cut better than the original Justice League is that it basically creates mini movies to do these backgrounds and these origins. I think it actually does it in a really smart way. It doesn't feel too bogged down. But at the end of the day, the movie is still 4 hours long. So it's a little too beefy for a movie. And it is that way because of how much they had to cram in there. So that's still an issue. Like I said, not as big of an issue, but definitely still an issue. That about wraps up what I didn't like about this movie. So let's talk about what I did like about this movie. And the first thing I really want to talk about is just that it explains what's going on. This movie actually takes its time, a lot of time, but it does take its time to tell you what's happening and to explain it and to tie things together. Even though each one of these superheroes that didn't have a standalone movie had to be given their own backstories, those backstories still tied together to the main story in a pretty neat and tidy way. They even brought in a bigger, badder villain to put that originally was there above Steppenwolf. And that should have bogged this movie down, but it didn't. It really added to the movie. And this movie, it starts off right out the gate explaining what the mother boxes are and how they got on Earth and why they're looking for them, what they do. And it explains the history right off the bat. And that was one of my big problems with the original Justice League, is it doesn't explain things. It just is sort of throwing concepts at you and hoping that you kind of pieced it together yourself. This movie explains what's going on. I mean, it's crazy to say that that's like a benefit to a movie because it seems like a simple thing, but it's clearly not. And this movie actually takes its time. One example of this is when they use the arrow to alert Diana of incoming war. They explain what the arrow is. They even show Diana and how she finds out the whole story that she might not have actually known prior, and how she knows so much about who Steppenwolf is and what the mother boxes are. And there's just a lot in this movie where, the big offender in the last movie that I talked about was, Aquaman and him talking to Mira in the one scene and him talking about how he's a lost prince. There's a whole scene before this that explains some of the backstory to the fact that he's half Atlantean and that he was cast out. And so when you meet the other Atlanteans and he has these interactions, that totally makes sense, So this movie does go out of its way to actually set things up, and then knocks them out of the park. The second thing that I loved about this movie, and I did love this, is it's controversial. I don't give a shit. It's fan service. At the end of the day, when it comes to these pop culture iconic kind of movies, superheroes and Star Wars and these movies are made for fans. There's obviously going to be a whole subset of people that come to watch these movies and get enjoyment out of them that aren't super fans. But at the end of the day, these are coming from comic book stories, and fans want to see something that appeals to them. And this movie had a handful of fan service moments that were just honestly like Endgame level awesome. Like I'm thinking like Captain America grabbing Thor's hammer, or Tony Stark saying, "I am Iron Man." Like moments like that. A few of the ones that come to mind is the Flash actually going back in time to reverse time to then complete his task of pushing Cyborg into the Trinity to separate it, or the Unity to separate it. That was amazing when he runs and you think that holy shit, this story is going to end like in a dark way. And then he starts running and then time starts reversing. You're like, oh, holy shit. And I was watching that scene with my mouth completely wide open and totally loved it. When you see Martian Manhunter, not just in the end credit scene, but even in the middle of the movie. Sorry, I'm like obviously so excited. It's just things like that where you're like, holy shit, there's the Martian Manhunter. And it's baffling to me, just so baffling to me that someone could look at this cut of the movie and say like, let's not do that. And instead, let's have the Flash be the only thing the Flash does in the final fight in the original Justice League movie is save one truck full of civilians, who, by the way, we don't see at all in this movie because they were part of the Whedon reshoots. In this movie, his abilities are pivotal to the success of the team, and not only that, you've got Darkseid, okay? You've got this Thanos-type character looming over. I mean, Steppenwolf was menacing enough, to begin with, but knowing that he answers to a higher power, something that he bows to someone else, it just adds so much more weight to him as a villain, and then so much more tenseness to when we do see Darkseid and he's standing and he's watching with his whole legions of armies. It's almost it's a shame that this didn't come out when it should have, because we really could have gone to an awesome place in the DCEU, but we do have it now, and there are definitely moments in this movie where you're just like, yes, that's amazing. So I have to say that I loved the fan service moments in this movie. Even not being a DC fanboy, I just love to see the smile on little DC fanboys' faces when Justice League Snyder Cut Christmas came to town. The last thing that I liked about this movie is that this movie did what it said it was going to do. In my mind, the point of the Snyder Cut was kind of started because Zack Snyder said the movie that was released isn't the movie that I was going to make, and I would have made a much better movie. That's what he said. Now, in fairness to Joss Whedon, I do think there was a lot of executive input. Actually, I kind of, it's pretty much confirmed that there was a lot of executive input for there. So I'm not shitting on Joss Whedon. He's given me plenty of awesome superhero movies, but I'm just saying that, Zack Snyder delivered. Granted, they did come back and they put a lot more money into this movie now and did a few reshoots. But even without that, this movie fixes everything that was wrong with the original, and it delivers an end product that is so much better and so much more entertaining. It fixes the issue of the flimsy origin stories. It fixes the issue of the disjointed and confusing storyline by actually explaining things. It goes through every flaw that the original had, and it solves it. I expected to come into this movie seeing definitely something that was better than the original Justice League, but more or less the same. And I was absolutely blown away by how different of a movie this is. The final fight scene is different in all the right ways. The one big thing that I loved that was different is that in the original Justice League movie, they have the idea to bring Superman back. And, a few of them are against it and a few of them are for it, but they end up doing it anyway. And it feels like this weird situation where, not everybody was on board with this, and then it goes wrong. Obviously, they were right. And in this movie, everybody's on board with it. It isn't until it's, right about to happen that people are like, I don't know. And so when Superman goes crazy and starts basically trying to kill the other Justice League members, it's way more impactful because they all had this idea to resurrect this hero, and now he's not acting like a hero. And then when Lois Lane shows up and she puts herself in between Batman and Superman calms down, that's such a more powerful moment than finding out that Batman had her shipped in because he knew that she'd be the catalyst. And in that situation, Batman's putting her in danger. In this situation, she's putting herself in danger. And she's making that choice for herself, and nobody's asking her to do it. And she reaches out to Superman, and Superman responds. And that is such a better way of doing it. And this movie is just full of that, It's all done better. That actually about wraps up for me. Obviously, I agree with the users. This was a really good movie, guys. I really enjoyed it, and I'm not afraid to admit it. I love DC. I don't care if the world knows.
I love him. I don't care who knows it.
I loved this DC movie. I have a lot of friends that are going to feel very smug hearing that. And can we talk about that end credits scene? Give me that as a movie, today, please. Thanks for watching another video. If you like this video, like it. I would love to have a chat with you about it, so please comment below. And if you want to see more videos, I'll probably do more videos. So subscribe to my channel and join the notification squad, or the notification league. Anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.